Okay, today we're going to go over the Kansas City and Tennessee Titans game. The final score was 35-32 Tennessee, and man, it's nice having Patrick Mahomes back. Like, he looked good in that game. Even though they lost, he looked good. He ended up passing for 446 yards for 3 touchdowns. Like, it's like he was never even gone. Like, he hasn't even missed a step, which is really glad to see. The biggest problem, the reason why they lost this game is because Kansas City cannot stop a running nose. Like, their defense is awful. Like, absolutely awful. They let Ryan Tannehill score 2 touchdowns and made them kind of look silly. Ryan Tannehill, you know, the quarterback that the Dolphins decided to move off of for Josh Rosen? Like, oh man. Like, it's so upsetting seeing Kansas City being exposed like this because they were the chosen ones to beat the Patriots so we get someone else in the Super Bowl. But I don't think that's going to happen because their defense can't stop anything. And I think the Patriots offense has fallen a little bit, but they're going to be able to do some stuff against that Kansas City defense. And that's so frustrating. And now, here's the thing. I don't think Tennessee is necessarily a bad team. I think they're 5-5 right now, and I feel like they could make the playoffs, and if they did, whoever played them is going to have a huge challenge ahead of them, especially teams that focus a lot on offense, because Tennessee has a pretty good defense and a pretty good run game. Their running back, where is it? Logan. Oh wait, that's deviant. One sec. Derrick Henry. Sorry about that. Man, I couldn't think. He rushed for 20. I mean, he had 23 attempts for 188 yards, average 8.2 yards play, and scored 2 touchdowns. Like, Derrick Henry, he's a good running back, but he's not a great running back. Like, he's under a good offensive line, which Tennessee has. And that run game is a nightmare for teams like Kansas City, the Browns, LA Rams. Like, teams that focus a lot on their offense and have a lot of their key players on offense will have trouble with Tennessee Titans because they hold on the ball for so long. Like, they won't let your star players, which in this case are mostly on offense, have a chance to even make plays because they're waiting for their defense to get a stop. And in Kansas City's situation, they never got that stop. And the worst part about it is Tennessee was up 10-0 in the first quarter. Like, the hard part's already over, scoring points against Tennessee. All you have to do is just stop that offense. And yes, their offensive line is good and they got a good running game, but they shouldn't give you that much trouble. Now, again, they're not a bad team. I want Kansas City to be able to beat the Patriots in the playoffs, and I don't think that's going to happen. And I think the Patriots are going to look at this game and mirror what Tennessee did, because the Patriots have a very similar format this year to the Tennessee Titans, and they're going to be able to do what Tennessee did, actually probably more effectively. Like, I understand the Patriots have Tom Brady, but Tennessee was able to put up 35 points with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback. Let me reiterate, Ryan Tannehill. Like a guy that has been so injury prone throughout his career. I'm surprised he knows how to play football anymore. Oh man. Like, I feel bad for Patrick Mahomes because here's the thing. Kansas City is basically asking Patrick Mahomes to go against 11 guys. Actually, 22 because their defense is not going to do anything. So it's like he has to play well enough against 11 guys by himself, maybe including Hill, so 2 against 11 still, to win football games, and that's really not fair to him. I really don't want Patrick Mahomes' career go like Andrew Luck's career, where here's the thing with the Colts, they didn't draft any offensive linemen for forever, and as soon as they did, they started doing good, but it was a little too late for that, and the damage was already done to Andrew Luck. So even though Patrick Mahomes just got off an injury, I don't see that happening to him because Kansas City's actually done an okay job at their offensive line, but I would hate to see him not go to like 3 Super Bowls just because Kansas City can't figure out a defense like the Colts couldn't figure out a offensive line. When you got a talent like Patrick Mahomes playing under center, you gotta find at least a good defense, a good offensive line, and one good wide receiver, which they already have in Hill. Yeah, I just so frustrated because we've probably never had a talent like Patrick Mahomes, but he's playing with such a terrible defense that he's forced to do way too much. Kind of like Aaron Rodgers for the last 5 years. Like Aaron Rodgers, struggled for a couple years because he had to do everything himself and sometimes made big mistakes. Actually, it's kind of weird. Patrick Mahomes actually plays like Brett Favre, like where he throws a lot of 50-50 balls, but because of his arm strength, he can just beam it in there. But it just frustrates me that you got a guy like that, and he's probably not going to go to the Super Bowl for a little bit because you can't figure out your defense. I guarantee you, Kansas City will not go to a Super Bowl until either Tom Brady or Bill Belichick retires, or they figure out their defense, because those are the things that are holding them back. Yeah, I'm not totally disappointed with the Chiefs. It's just I expected them to be way better this year because we already knew their problem. The whole NFL knew their problems, that they did not have a defense, and they have done nothing to actually get better in that area. It's just like with the Lions, just for example, for my team, the Lions, next year's draft, I'm not really sure what they're going to do because there's a lot of different ways they can go about the draft and all that. But with Kansas City, it's very obvious that they got to draft defense almost completely down the board. I'm not of course I'm not worried about their offense because Patrick Mahomes, like Russell Wilson, can carry that offense by himself, but he can't carry a whole team by himself. For example, Russell Wilson, like I said earlier, he carries the Seahawks a lot of the time, but the Seahawks are only like a playoff team or like a competitive team when they have a good defense, and Seahawks don't really have a good offensive line, but it's getting better. But a great quarterback just needs one thing for them to make it a Super Bowl. Like Tom Brady, he just needs a good defense to be able to get to the Super Bowl. Drew Brees just has to have a running game to get to the Super Bowl. Russell Wilson, again, just needs a good defense to get to the Super Bowl. And I think it's becoming very apparent that Patrick Mahomes just needs a good defense to get to the Super Bowl. And it'd be really Like, I think Kansas City should get fire their defensive coordinator and go for the defense coordinator at Chicago, because their defensive that defensive coordinator has made that Chicago defense crazy good. Not this year so much, but he's clearly knows what he's doing, and I don't think Kansas City's defensive staff know what they're doing. I really don't, or at least can't put it together. I don't know how good or bad their defensive play calling is. I'm not really that much of an expert on defensive play calling, but they definitely haven't found the pieces to execute whatever their defensive game plan is. What is it? It just, last year, Kansas City looked like a surefire bet for the Super Bowl, but it was their defense that held them back. So you assume the following year they would fix that, considering they're actually a pretty good organization, but they didn't. And it's just, again, I feel like I'm repeating myself. It's so frustrating, because here we got a team that could beat the Patriots and dethrone the Patriots, but they can't, because they can't just get this one thing right. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about Kansas City. Let's look at their schedule, so I can schedule. Okay, Kansas City, where is it? Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to pull up the schedule. Just give me one sec, okay? I am not an expert with technology, that's for sure. So next they play against the Chargers, and at a 8:15 p.m. game for my area, and I think Chargers, I trust that Kansas City can put Chargers away. Chargers have kind of fallen apart a little bit, and I chalk that mostly up to Philip Rivers getting older and not being able to carry the offense as much as he has been able to. Now here, the next game they play is a very interesting game. It's the Raiders versus it's against the Raiders. Sorry, I misspoke. And the Raiders are an interesting team. I think they're getting a lot better, and their defense is playing a lot better, and they have a good run game with their rookie running back. And it's almost exactly, Raiders are very similar to the Titans, and I think I actually would be willing to bet that the Chiefs lose to the Raiders. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but it's a strong chance. Then they play the Patriots, and man, that's like a preview of the playoffs right there. And if the Patriots are going, the Patriots are going to mirror Tennessee and what the Raiders are going to do against the Chiefs, and I think the Patriots win that game pretty easily, because they're just going to do what they got the personnel to do what Tennessee and the Raiders did. Then they play against the Broncos, and they're going to beat the Broncos. The Broncos are a joke this year. And then they play against Chicago, and I can see them losing against Chicago too, because Chicago is a team that is very similar to, almost exactly to the Raiders in Tennessee, where they can play some good defense and run the ball. Now, I think this one's less likely to happen compared to the Raiders and Patriots, but it still could happen. And then they finish their regular seasons against the Chargers again, which they will win in barely a competition. yeah, like, I just don't see them doing well the second half of this season. Now, obviously, they're going to make the playoffs, but man, it's going to be close. Like, they might not win their division. Yeah, like, Raiders might dethrone them. I'm serious. Like, I know Kansas City beat the Raiders the first time they played each other, but I don't really put that in consideration because the Raiders have gotten better as the year has gone on. And now with Tennessee putting the template out there to beat Kansas City, like, they're just going to mirror them. And I guess that's all I got to say about Kansas City. It's going to become rough for them the second half of the season. And I think they still make the playoffs, but they might get dethroned by the Raiders. I think that it has a strong possibility. Not likely, but possible. And that's all I have to say. Now, going over other things that happened in the NFL this week. The Vikings beat the Dallas, which I did not expect to happen. I might have been wrong about the Vikings. Yeah, like, if they beat Green Bay, I will make a whole video about how I was wrong about the Vikings. And, yeah, there's no other things I want to talk about, really. There is one thing. There's not going to be a podcast this week because it's hunting season, and if you watch the podcast, we mentioned it at the very end, but we're probably not going to do an episode this week of the podcast. Now, I might do a episode of, like, my regular episode, like an extra one, but it just depends on if a topic comes into my head. But yeah, I'm only doing it if there's a topic that's really been bugging me and I really want to talk about it. But if I do end up doing it, it will go up Thursday, and we'll see what happens. But sure, like and subscribe, and talk to you guys later.